graders. Today we are looking at finding absolute value. All right, so all our lessons recently have been about the number line and graphing and plotting on a number line and finding distances on either the negative or the positive side, if it was rational, integer, something like that. So today we're going to be looking at absolute values. Well, absolute value is all about the distance from 0. Okay, so we're going to be looking at how far away from 0 is a number. So absolute value is the distance between the number and 0 on a number line. So absolute value is the distance between a number and 0 on a number line. All right, so absolute value, how far away from 0 is it? Absolute distance between number and 0. All right, so let's talk about what this looks like because it has a really weird symbol and you're going to start seeing this symbol. Okay, so this symbol looks like this. Let's say I have the number 4 and it's inside these two lines. These are not ones, and they're not ones because they are bigger than this number here. Okay, so this is a 4 and these are called the absolute value lines. It's like I'm a 4 and I'm in a wall. Okay, so absolute value looks like this. So let's go ahead and put that over here. It looks like two numbers with something in between. I mean, two lines with something in between, not numbers. Oh my goodness. So two lines with something in between. Okay, for example, this. This says how far away from 4 or how far away from 0 is the number 4. Well, the number 4 is 4 jumps away from 0. So when I graph this on a number line, and I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, to get from 4 to 0, I have to jump 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps. So I do 4 jumps. Because I do 4 jumps, the absolute value of 4 is 4 because it's 4 jumps. Okay, now let's talk about the absolute value of, where's my pen? Okay, here it is. Negative 4. So let's say I have the absolute value of negative 4. So again, I have a negative 4. It's in these lines, right? And I want to know what is the absolute value of negative 4. So I'm going to find negative 4 on the number line, and I'm going to count. How far is it away from 0? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, oh, look at that, 4 jumps. So the absolute value of negative 4 is a positive 4. It's 4 jumps. It just means you're going 4 places. So when something is asking for the absolute value, it wants to know how many steps away from 0 do I have to walk to jump on that line. Okay, so let's talk about this when we have to graph. So let's say that I am graphing the absolute value of negative 3. So let's say I need to graph the absolute value of negative 3. And I'm really exaggerating these lines right here so that you can tell that they're not ones. Okay, so if I were to graph the absolute value of negative 3 on a number line, I would need to first figure out where is negative 3? Well, negative 3 jumps 1, 2, 3 times to get to 0. So the absolute value of negative 3 is a positive 3 because it's 3 jumps. So it is 3 jumps. Okay, but how do I graph it? Well, if I'm going to graph it on a number line, I'm just going to graph the 3 because the absolute value tells us how far away is it from 0. So when I graph it, I'm going to graph 3 places from 0. So here's my 0, 1, 2, 3. So I would put it right here, and this is the absolute value of negative 3. Okay, let's graph another one because that can be a little bit confusing, right? So let's graph another one. That is not the right letter. Okay, letter C. All right, letter C says, I would like to graph, let's look at negative 2.5. Let's look at a rational number. So let's say I want to graph negative 2.5, the absolute value of negative 2.5. Well, my first step here is to figure out what is the absolute value of negative 2.5. Well, the absolute value is 2.5. It's just anything you put into this absolute value box or half a box is positive because every jump that you're doing is positive. You're just counting the jumps. So negative 2.5 is really 2.5, and that only is if it's inside these absolute value lines. If it's not in those lines, it's still negative, okay? So absolute value of negative 2.5 is 2.5. So we can graph this on our number line. 1, 2, 3, let's go like this. That's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph it on our line. Let's use a different color so it actually stands out this time. So here's a half, here's 1, here's a half, 2, here's a half, 2, and a half. So this right here is the absolute value of negative 2.5 because it takes me on the other side to get to negative 2.5. It takes me 1, 2.5 jumps to get to negative 2.5. All right, it is your turn to do a try it. So I'd like for you to please do a try it. The try it that I would like for you to do is to graph. Let's graph. Let's graph 9 and negative 9. Ooh, look at that. Okay, so I want you to tell me when you graph it which one is bigger. Okay, so you're gonna look at number 1. Oh my goodness, missing under. Okay, number 1, you are going to first graph the absolute value of 9. And then I want you to graph the absolute value of negative 9. And then I want you to tell me, when you compare these, what symbol goes inside the box. Okay, ready? Hit pause right now so you don't hear me talking to you about this. All right, ready? All right, so I'm gonna draw my number line. I know that the absolute value of 9 is 9. I know the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. And 9 is equal to 9. So I'm going to graph this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And both of them are right here. This is not only the absolute value of 9, but it's also the absolute value of negative 9. Ooh, that looks like 19. Let me make this a little bigger. There we go. All right. It is kind of an odd concept. So think about how you did there. If you have questions, come and ask me. But just know that anything in that absolute value symbol just tells you how far away from 0 is it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to order absolute value. Okay, so we're going to order absolute value. Ordering absolute value. How in the world do you order the absolute value I don't know, whatever, make yours a question. Okay, this is where my brain is right now because this is my third video this afternoon. Okay, so when we make our question, how do you order absolute value, not how do you ordering, because that would be weird. We're putting these in order from least to greatest. Okay, so let's go with least to greatest. So let's say that I want to know, I'm going to give you guys a good example. All right, let's talk about the temperature in the atmosphere. Okay, so let's say that the temperature on Monday in the atmosphere, so let's go with Monday, is the absolute value of 3.8, 3 8/10. Okay, on Tuesday. I know we did temperature yesterday too, right? That was weird. Okay, it was negative 5.15. Ooh, 5 15/100. Okay, on Wednesday, it is 0.3. Okay, no absolute value there. That one doesn't have one. And then on Thursday, it was negative 4.5. Okay, we need to put these in order from least to greatest. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at all the ones that have the absolute value sign and rewrite them as their real rational numbers. Okay, so into this one is negative 3.8, but it's really 3.8 when it's in this symbol. Negative 5 15/100 is really 5 15/100 of a jump from 0. So like if the temperature was 0, that's how far away that is. Okay, this number is already in its regular form, and this one doesn't have any absolute value thingies around it, so bars, so we're just going to leave this as is. So now these are the numbers that we need to put in order from least to greatest. Okay, so I know that the smallest number here, the one that's furthest from 0, when I graph it on a number line, is negative 4.5. So that's going to go first. That one's the least. My next one from 0 jumps away from 0 now is going to be 0.3. 3.8 would be next, and then 5.15. So you would just put them in order based on their new symbols if they need a new symbol. That's it, least to greatest. Okay, now if this one did have absolute bars around it, it would go somewhere over here between 3.8 and 5.15. Okay, so your try it right now. Your try it is to put these numbers in order from least to greatest. So I want you to put these in order from least to greatest. All right, so let's do, nope, I don't like that. Sorry guys, I'm trying to give you one that's not too super crazy. No crazies! Miss Englander is crazy enough as it is. This is taking a while. I am so sorry. Okay, let's do, yeah, I don't like any of their examples. Okay, let's do this one. All right, we have the absolute value of 6. We have the absolute value of -4. The absolute value of -1 1/2. And then we have 3/4. Okay, go ahead and put those in order from least to greatest. Hit pause so you don't hear me doing it for you. All right, so first thing is absolute value of 6 would be 6. Absolute value of -4 is just a 4. Absolute value of -1 1/2 is 1 1/2, and then 3/4. All right, let's put them in order. So least to greatest. My very smallest number that I have is 3/4 because it's not even a whole. So 3/4 is going to go first. I have next would be 1 because 1 1/2 is smaller than 4 and smaller than 6. So 1 1/2. 4 is next. And 6 is last. That's the greatest. So from least to greatest, how did you do? Okay, and one more try it. I want you to, so here's try it number 1. And now I want you to try this. I want you to compare these two. I want to do one more comparing. Which one is greater compared to the other? So let's say that I have the absolute value of -2 and, 2.3, so 2 3/10, compared to the absolute value of -2 and 1/5. Okay, this one just got a little tricky because you have to go back to yesterday's lesson first to think about this. So hit pause and then hit play when you're ready. Okay, so I know that these two things are not in the same thing. So I have a 5th and I have a 10th here. So I need to figure out, first, this means 2.3, 2 3/10. This, I have to get 1/5 to become, so this one is 2 1/5, but I have tenths and I have fifths. So I need to multiply by 2 over 2, and that gives me 2 tenths. So really I have 2 and 2 tenths. So I'm comparing 2 and 2 tenths. So 2 3/10 compared to 2 2/10. This one is greater because it's further away from 0. That was a lot going on in that problem. And this one is from the 7th grade book. So I want to make sure that you understand, 1, how to find the absolute value, and 2, how to compare them to make sure that they are in the same form. You could change this one here. You could even write it as 2 2/10 like that if you wanted to. And then you could see it a little bit easier. You could compare it like that. All right, 6th graders, go ahead and answer your essential question. Your essential question was, how do we find the absolute value of either rational numbers, integers, whole numbers? What does that look like? And then out to the side in the box, go ahead and put your rating. How do you feel about finding the absolute value? All right, 6th graders, thank you so much for all of your hard work and effort this week. And as always, make it a great day the Cougar way.